It's been a couple months off, but I'm super excited to announce this is kind of the relaunch of this channel. I'm going to be uploading a new interview every single day. So today is going to be all about SCAD and their amazing program, but keep an eye out. I have some more acting programs I'm going to be talking about, directing and stage management programs. So there's going to be a lot of exciting things coming up in the next month or so. But today I have Isaac. So do you want to go ahead, introduce yourself, and say what school you're from?
Yeah, hi, I'm Isaac Liu. I'm from Fairfield, Connecticut, and I'm a sophomore at SCAD, also known as the Savannah College of Art and Design here in Savannah, Georgia. And I'm a performing arts major.
So can you talk about what being a performing arts major entails and how it's different from other film or acting programs?
Yeah, so at SCAD, there's only a performing arts major. So that covers a whole lot of things. There's all kinds of different opportunities. So there's no like MT, there's no specifically musical theater or acting for the camera like majors or whatever. It's all kind of lumped into one. But from there, I know a lot of people who have kind of gone down a specific path. So I know a lot of people who are focusing directly on musical theater. I know a lot of people who do acting for the camera, like TV and film acting. I know people who do voice acting. I know some people who do dance. Me specifically, I just do a whole lot of both, a lot of everything. There are so many opportunities at this school, so I love to get a taste for everything. I know a lot of people like that too, who just takes advantage of everything that the school offers.
Yeah. How much freedom do you guys have in terms of picking your classes? Like, would you say it's kind of like a build your own major? Like, can you put a million dance classes if that's your thing? Or is it pretty
there
known?
are a list of certain classes that every performing arts major has to take. Then within that curriculum, that specific performing arts curriculum, there are electives that you can choose from. So there are two sets of like 3 electives. And from there you can choose. So I think the first set is like stage combat, conditioning for the body and mind. That's kind of like a movement class. And then I think there's a dance class. And then the second set of electives is like kind of, I think there's a improv, like a more advanced improv. There's, I think, voice acting. And those are more the niche classes that if people really want to like dive into those, like I know a lot of people who, there's one improv class that is necessary, that is required. But if you want to do another improv, like I just did improv this last quarter and loved it so much, so I decided to do the improv elective, and that is one of the electives that I could have chosen from the 3. And so yeah, you definitely can build certain aspects, but overall, you have to meet a certain required number of classes that everyone takes, no matter where your focus is.
Do you have any like math, science, English core classes, or is it all performance based?
No. So, I mean, that is an art school, so it's not just performing arts. There's all kinds of majors, painting, fashion marketing, fashion design. There's, video game design, animation, all these crazy cool majors, but everyone does have to take the same, there's foundations, which is more art related, kind of gen ed classes. Then there's the gen ed classes, which are like, you have to take a math, you have to take a behavioral science or science, you have to take some kind of history, some kind of like possibly like economics course or business. And then there's the foundations, like everyone has to take, or there are certain foundations that certain majors have to take. So like for a performing arts major, I have to take 3 or 4 design classes. So that's like a 2D design, 3D design, like sculpting. There's color theory, so like painting and stuff. And so each major, although focuses on their major classes, they get a little taste of different kind of art forms, which is really cool. And then there's the major related classes.
Yeah, that's sick. I remember because we looked at SCAD at the same time, and it is such a neat program in the school. Like, I just feel like it must have an incredibly creative vibe about it. And I always say, like, the more you can do everything in this industry and not just kind of latch onto one art form, the better. So I imagine you guys are coming out with such like a well-rounded education, which is so cool.
Totally, yeah. It's a really unique experience just being constantly surrounded by other creative people. Because I have friends who are like, "Hey, can you help me?" And who are like fashion friends. Or they're like, "Hey, can you help me with a photo shoot or whatever? Can you help me like I'm doing a music video or something like that?" And I'm constantly getting like just different opportunities and through other art forms, which is really great because you want to be as well rounded, like you said, in other I don't know, platforms.
Yeah. Can you talk a bit about what your performance opportunities are? Because I know you did Little Women, and I think you've also done different like student films. So how much of that is on your own, and what does the school provide?
Yeah, so wow, they're like in so many opportunities to the point where like I just know tons of people who are constantly working, and it's sometimes it can be overwhelming because you want to do your work outside of class, but you also are struggling with not struggling, but you've got classes and you've got other stuff going on. So like my freshman year last year, I was super lucky to have like my first quarter, I was in a student play. So there are different like clubs and stuff, and students create their own stuff. There's like improv troops and tons of other student-led drama clubs. Then there's the main stage. So SCAD like produces it, and so they did Little Women the musical last year on their like huge stage, and that was so fun. I'll send you some pictures so you can like
Yes, I'll
show
insert
the
them now.
audience. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was really great, and it was honestly led like a real professional production, and we had a like great set design and costumes, and it was really special. It was right before COVID, actually, literally the weekend before I left. It was our opening and closing weekend. We had like 3 or 4 shows, and yeah, and then literally I left and I went home in quarantine. So that was it. But it was real special. We performed in front of like 900 people like per night. It was crazy. And so obviously now during COVID, we can't do something of that spectacle anymore. But even still, like in a time where you wouldn't expect tons of stuff to be happening, like on the other end of the performance major performing arts, there's student films, and uh, that's a main thing that I found different from other um, colleges is because I was so interested to get into like the film and TV aspect of acting, having done tons of stage acting prior to college, and there's a film major here, so there's film students always making movies and student films, and some really really good ones too. I've had like tons of great opportunities working with people who I know I'll see some I'll run into again later after college, and yeah, so there's like literally endless opportunities. I could go on and on and on for days just talking about um, all the stuff that goes on around here.
Yeah. And also, I feel like the location for you guys, because I have a friend who's from Atlanta, Georgia, and growing up, she had so many opportunities to get into TV and film just because so many things filmed down there. So has
Yeah.
that also been another like added benefit, just being down there and having a lot of other TV and film?
Yeah, I mean, when I was like applying to schools, never did I think that like Savannah, Georgia, would be like so prominent in. And not that it's like anywhere really close to Atlanta or LA or New York, but still like I think because of the taxes and just the price of shooting in Savannah is so low. A lot of like right now, there's this huge war film shooting in Savannah. Joe Jonas is in it, and Glenn Powell and Jonathan
Yeah.
Majors, and it's a huge action movie. And I know tons of people who are extras in it, and they're filming for the next like month and a half here. Um, and so just that is like it's not even affiliated with the school really. It's just they just happen to be in town and shooting. And so yeah, also being so close to Atlanta, there are tons of stuff happening there, and it is a great place to be. And you wouldn't think about it, but yeah.
What is kind of going back a bit? Can you talk about what's the exact degree you are getting as the performing arts? And then what is your class size like?
Right. So I'm getting all performance arts majors get BFA
Okay.
in performing arts. We all kind of graduate with the same degree, but in different, facets, different paths on the performing arts um, program. But there's also tons of minors too. I know people who are performing arts majors, but then minor specifically in acting for the camera. Um, but I also know people who aren't performing arts majors who are, I don't know, like user experience majors, like who do like cool like computer apps and like who are just also a performing arts minor, like because they just and so they get to do cool stuff too. And I, as for class size, do you mean class size specifically in the classroom or in general?
In general, like how many do they take? But also in the classroom, like do you tend to have smaller? Because I know I haven't come across many performing arts majors or even being in MT or acting. You don't really have many like lecture classes unless it's core. But what's it like for you guys?
So kind of also this is kind of having to do with the application process. SCAD is like really unique in terms of you don't have to audition, which is kind of like when I was submitting to schools and applying, and I saw that I didn't have to audition, and literally I got into SCAD a couple months or a month or two after I applied, and it was super easy. It was like almost too easy, where I was like, okay, this is weird, because all the other schools that I was applying to, I was sending in self tapes and pre-screens, and then I'd have to go to the college and do my audition and a callback, and that was a grueling process. And then I applied to SCAD and I got in to the performing arts, major. But because that's how they do it, there are like hundreds of people in the performing arts major, which is also great. On the flip side, some people would really like that conservatory kind of thing where you're constantly growing and learning with the same 20 people. But it's also really great to be amongst hundreds of acting students because you know I think if I was acting with the same 20 people in each film, one, I feel like the film majors wouldn't have a lot to work with, but also it's great to be able to meet new people and collaborate with different actors. So as of general class size, it's fairly large, but for the classroom right now, obviously the classes are much smaller. Like there's a performance lab class that's specifically musical theater that they held auditions for, and it was only 4 students, and it was super like competitive. But that was only because of COVID, really.
Yeah.
But then, like the virtual acting classes are like can be 15 to 25 people. In a normal year without COVID, they're probably around that too, 15 to 25. That's what I remember from my freshman year before we went online. So yeah, they're pretty. And then actually for the lectures or for the foundation classes, they can go up to 30. But that's probably it. I don't think they go past 30 or 35.
Yeah. And I agree. I think there's a misconception in terms of performing arts majors because some programs are so competitive and keep it so small that we start thinking that's better programs. And I also go to a school that takes like a couple hundred people at a time, and I'm still only training with 20 kids. But it's not a negative. It never reflects
Ah,
bad. It doesn't affect the training you're getting. And like you said, I agree that if anything, you're just exposed to more people, people
yeah.
from different areas of the country or around the world. And as an artist, that just helps you. And everyone, there's so many different acting techniques and different things work for different people. So the more students you have and you get exposed to different things, and I think it can be helpful.
Yeah, look, when I was auditioning, I got into a like very like prestigious program, and it was only like 12 people. And but I looked at the school in general and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna like it there. Although it's on paper the best program with the most, prestigious history, I looked at SCAD and I was like, okay, I got into a program with like 500 other kids, but I just think I'm gonna work better here. And honestly, that I'm glad I took that risk. I wasn't entirely sure it would pay off, but I came here and it was great. It's great. And so yeah, you're so right that it doesn't really matter. It's honestly whatever works for you is the best. Is like don't really pay attention to the numbers of the whole thing.
No, I 100% agree. It's at the end of the day, just think about like what you want, like what type of training are you looking for, and figure out which school's going to be the best. It's really easy to get caught up in like the name or the prestigious programs, but it's like just do what's going to be best for you. It's
Yeah.
such a different thing to major in that I think that's so smart to just go with the school that feels like it's going to be the best fit. Speaking of which, can you speak to SCAD's campus life, since people can't go and visit? What is a super close campus? How open are you to the city? What's kind of the
Right.
vibe?
So, like the audition process, SCAD is unique in terms of its campus life. It's not really, I mean, there's a campus, but I'd say the city is the campus. The city of Savannah, um, SCAD has done a lot in terms of kind of reshaping the city. Not really. I mean, obviously, a lot has happened over the last, 50 years, but um, they've kind of spread their wings across the entire city, and there are like the dorms. Like there's different dorms across the city. So like the freshmen usually live in like the same area, and that's kind of where like the downtown area is. And I live off campus now. A lot of students live off campus, but also a lot of students live on campus. The dorms are like crazy nice and crazy big compared to like other schools. And but as for campus life, like it's hard for me to speak on that because it's different for everyone. If you live in the dorms, it's very different from living off campus, especially now because of COVID. SCAD wasn't a huge party school to begin with. Like the scene, if you're gonna go out and party, like most likely you're going to like a bar or whatever down like downtown. But yeah, it's different. There's no like quad or whatever. Like you're not gonna go out and sit like in the courtyard or whatever. There are certain areas, but the city is the campus, which is great because SCAD does a lot of work with town and like honestly, like I actually happen to live just right next to like one of the SCAD halls, like where some of the classrooms are. But also I also live next to like a big park, and so you walk down the street, there's a park. You walk a little further, there's another SCAD building. You walk a little further, there's SCAD dorms. Walk a little further, there's shops, and so it's definitely unique. But I love it because I'm not bound to my campus. Um, Other people really like the campus life, and so it's definitely different. But if you kind of like being able to be independent and walk around and kind of explore the city that you live in, especially if you're going to live there for 4 years, I I love that ability that I have.
Yeah, I think going to college in a city
For
when you
you,
don't
right?
have a, huh?
It's the same for you, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's the same with New York. Like, AMDA does not have a campus by any means. We just have buildings scattered throughout. But it's exciting because I think you can make what you want of it. Like when you have a closed campus, there's an appeal to that. And there's sometimes I do wonder, like, oh, that seems like really neat, that more quote unquote college experience. But I think with the city, you have more ability to make what you want of it. And like you said, like if you do want to go to bars and clubs and like if that's your thing, like cool, like that's where you can spend your weekend. Or if you want to take advantage of all the parks or like museums in your area, like you can do that. I think being in a city, it just gives you a lot more options of what to do with your free time, and which is
Yeah.
really, it's just different, but it's a lot of fun.
I mean, I'm always gonna have moments where grass is always greener. Like I wish I had this, wish I had that, but really, like I think especially with the like art creativity aspect of the school, there are constantly people making things and creating things throughout the town, and there's film shoots, and you just walk down the street and you see like you know who's a SCAD student like on the street, like right, like it's it as much as there isn't a like clear ecosystem in terms of like campus, like you like it there's still an environment, right? Like SCAD definitely has influenced Savannah in terms of like the feel and like obviously there are certain areas that are not inhabited by the school, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So wrapping it up, I have two final questions. One is, what made you choose SCAD?
Um, yeah, it was hard because like I was saying earlier, I was really deciding between two schools. One was a very like by the books like college. Like you're going there and you're going to be on campus and very prestigious program, but I was going to go to football games. I was going to go to like real like frat parties or whatever. And that as much as the program might have been a fit wasn't for me. And so I looked at SCAD and just being constantly surrounded by creative people. That was something that I really wanted in an experience where I can go and I've got friends who paint, who do sculpting, who do video games, who do visual effects, who do sound design, who do tons of other stuff. And it's refreshing to be surrounded by people who are here to make and here to like succeed in what they want to do. I mean, sure, there's partying and like, yeah, like, but at the end of the day, everyone's here for a reason. Um, but also, I don't think I've touched upon this yet, is just the way that what SCAD can do for you after college. Like the connections to the industry, specifically performing arts, is insane. I think like they advertise that when you apply or when you're interested, but I don't think it really hit me until I got here. Um, every fall quarter, they do a film festival. And a normal year would be in person, but they've got a great like theater downtown where they host a lot of events, and throughout the town they do all these events, and like they've got like working actors like off the top of my head, the guests that they've had over the last couple of years: Hugh Jackman, John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, Daniel Kaluuya, Beanie Feldstein. I met her, and we chatted, and I'm going to panels, and there's different directors and producers coming, and they screen these movies. I saw Parasite and Jojo Rabbit and all these other movies, before they released, and it's really for the students, but it's also great because it brings all these people together. And so I'm meeting people who possibly could be my boss in the future. They've got casting directors come and have panels, and I did a master class with like Olivia Wilde, and it's really special. And when that's not even happening, they still have like, I'm trying to think, like this past quarter I did a Zoom masterclass with like Lawrence Fishburne.
That's insane. Those are huge names.
And it's because, the people who work here and the people who are the heads of the department are still working actors, or who are feel very active in the industry or had a prominent, job or role in the industry. Like the dean of performing arts is a very established like casting director for ABC or some major network, and it's because of those ties to the industries where they have these amazing opportunities for students to meet possible people who might be work in the future. Or I know people who I think like there are definitely students who have gotten work because they've met people just coming through SCAD, or they yeah, and not to go on a super long like
No, that's so good. Connections are everything. So like that's important that your school is setting you up. That was one question I skipped over, is like, how is your school helping you out in an industry where connections are everything? Like, how are they gonna bridge that gap from being a student to being a performer?
Yeah, and another thing is SCAD's the only university in America to have a casting office on campus. So what they do is, and they treat it as a real casting office. They have interns, student interns, but then they have people who actually work for the school in the casting office. And most of the time it's student films. It's film majors go to the casting office. They say, hey, we're looking for an actor like this, an actor like this, an actor like this. And at the beginning of the year, performing arts majors will submit a resume and a headshot to the casting office. And when film majors go, these interns and these people who work in the casting office, they go through their filing cabinet and they pull out people who they think would be right for the role, and they send out auditions, and they do self-tapes and whatnot. And that's great. What's even better is that they also get professional stuff. Professional productions will come through Savannah, or alumni who are working on professional productions will suggest SCAD for casting. And so, like, I'm trying to think of I think Barry Jenkins did a show in Savannah about the Underground Railroad like 2 years ago. And I think through the casting office, he cast people in small and like supporting roles. And like there are constantly opportunities through I got an audition for like a Netflix movie or something. And regardless of if I get it, just the fact that I'm like a freshman or a sophomore now in college getting these opportunities is amazing. And they are just super generous about that, and they really want us to succeed. And that was what drove me to come here eventually, is just this constant like environment of student success, and really wanting their students to be engaged the moment they step into school.
That's amazing. That's huge. I do remember looking at that, like seeing that film festival that they do, and you can tell there's a really good sense that you're leaving that school with amazing connections. And it can sometimes be a game, like you said, even if you don't book that Netflix show, now that casting director has seen you. So the next time you walk, they're like, oh wait, I remember this Isaac guy. It can kind of be a numbers game. So the sooner you can start that, the better off you are. No, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say it's like that for every school. A lot of it's just getting your foot in the door. And so, yeah, that's been a big thing here.
Yeah. So what would be your final piece of advice for people looking to apply to SCAD?
I think if you can right now, specifically in COVID, I mean, it's hard, but if you can, visit the school. I know a lot of people, I know tons of people who obviously love it here, but then I also know people who I don't think got a chance to visit, or maybe weren't totally didn't understand the environment, because it's definitely a unique school and it's not for everyone. That's just what it is. Every school's like that. You got people, just coming and realizing it's not for them. But SCAD's very unique and very different. So if you really want to understand what it's like, I'd say come and try to schedule. I know they're still doing tours, COVID safe, obviously, but come and really like spend a weekend or a couple of days here and just get a vibe for the town, because it's definitely different. But then also, I guess, just, I don't know, do your research, because there are a lot of things that I didn't know at school that are great, but I just didn't know until I got here. So maybe if you're like still hesitant, do more research and really look into, maybe go on YouTube, just look up SCAD and like videos and stuff. There are tons of students who probably make videos about what it's like to live here, and just do your research, because I just was lucky enough to like it enough when I visited for a day or two. I came here and I loved it. But like I said, there are some people who, I don't think were totally understood what it was like here. But yeah, and then I guess in general, just like to people like applying to schools, it is what it is. Like you're gonna find your place, and like I'm glad I found my place here. I think this is a place for a lot of people. It's weird that not a lot of people know about this school, because I didn't know about it at all. Leading literally my senior year, my guidance counselor or something said, check out this school, and I did, and I'm so glad I did. So I hope that through this, people start to notice the school more. It's definitely underrated and up and coming still, but it's a great time, and it's like I will never regret coming here. So
yeah, if you're watching, and even if you are thinking the musical theater track or whatever, if you want to do TV and film, it's a great school, as Isaac has said, that gives you the option to do a lot of things. And they actually do go to unifieds. I don't know if it's changed, but our year I was able to do, you don't need to audition to get in, but you can go. I sang one of my cuts and did my monologue for them, and it was more of a scholarship audition.
Yeah.
But from there, they'll help you fill out an application. So if you're on that Unifieds grind, just add it to your list. It was super sweet stuff. off. They were all so nice and so helpful, and like.
And you can get in fast because you know they don't really hold auditions. So I actually showed up, didn't even realize they were there, and I got an audition. So yeah.
So thank you so much for doing this, Isaac. And for everyone watching, if you're interested or have more questions about the school, as always, comment them down below and I can get you in touch with Isaac or other students at the program to answer any other questions that we didn't cover today. So any final things?
Good luck to everyone applying to schools, and I wish you the best.
Yes, best of luck, everyone. Thank you, Isaac.
You're welcome.